George just told us about a photograph that he had of your father at 19 years old in a biker gang.
Well, which was all the stunt riders from the original film.
Right.
That's so cool.
This is our destiny. The question is, do you have it in you to make it epic?
Yeah, my dad used to race motorbikes and knew all the crew that performed a lot of those stunts and did the riding in the films.
So when you got this offer, did it feel full circle somewhat?
Yeah, I didn't even know that photo existed until 2 weeks ago when he showed me. But I grew up watching the films with my dad, and it all felt very nostalgic and vivid and wonderful.
Oh my God, that's unbelievable. That's so cool. Anya, what do you remember about day one on the war rig?
Oh, that I was so excited. I remember like sitting in it and going, okay, this is my home. This is my home now. To this day, I find one of the most impactful things for me is the War Boys. Anytime they're on set, I think as a fan, as somebody who, loves these movies so much and loves the mythology, it gets me every single time. Yeah. And that it was pouring with rain and it wasn't supposed to be, and we were all like, no! But you couldn't see it on screen, and that's what matters.
That's all that matters. Chris, I felt like you had a lot more dialogue than I expected in a movie like this. And there's a lot of military strategy that's involved in this.
Yeah.
Were you surprised at the amount of dialogue that you had, and what was maybe like a passage that you really enjoyed singing?
Yeah, I asked George very early on about that, and even a couple of the camera guys, even the way there's a lot of one single shots in this as opposed to a lot of the sort of extreme close-up, fast edits, in the previous films. And he said, George said, you can't do the same thing. People expect and deserve something different each time. And so there's a continuity, obviously, it's the same world, but I love the fact that there was a sort of epic, sort of Shakespearean quality to the dialogue, big passages, and there's speeches, and even the structure of the language feels very unique. And I really enjoyed that. It was something that I hadn't got to do before, especially in the sort of villainous space.
Sure.
But I thought, that there was the poetry to the language that he had written, which was brilliant.
Where are you going? So full of hope. There is no hope.
And for each of you, it's the most amount of time I think a character that you've played has endured. The passage of time, when you check back in with them at different locations, they've changed drastically as people. How did that sort of affect your preparation?
Goodness, from the moment I read the script, I felt like I really understood her, and I realized that this was going to be an experience that I would have in real time, as opposed to, being slightly removed from it in any way. I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna feel these feelings, and that's what it's gonna be.
Right.
But I think what's really helpful for both of us is everybody in the wasteland is just constantly trying to survive, and what you get through those 15 years is different threats at each time. So who that person is at that moment is in direct response to the threats to their survival.
Right.
It's like, okay, now is the time to stay quiet and disappear. Now's the time to fight back.
And I have to ask about the teddy bear, of course, who has a line that sort of sets up the origin of it, but how much more backstory did you give to the memories that are attached to that bear?
Yeah, a lot, and this was George's thing. His sort of mantra was found objects repurposed. So everything in the wasteland, everything you see had a previous duty or purpose, and now was being reused in some other way and fashioned into something else. And the teddy bear was there and was part of the costume, and I said, so what does it mean? And he's like, well, I'm not sure, what do you think it means? And then we began to sort of have different discussions about maybe it was his, maybe it was a child's, and so on. And then it took on a sort of a life of its own and held a lot more sort of presence than I think we'd initially expected. But it was a real takeaway for me that everything does need to have a story.
Yeah.
That nothing is accidental, and it gives it so much more sort of nuance and depth.